Pushkin. Welcome back to Risky Business, a show about making better decisions. I'm Maria Konnikova.
And I'm Nate Silver. Today on the show, Maria's working on a TV show. She's been very coy about it, even with me, frankly, but now she has no more need to be. We're going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's going to be the lead-in to the meat of the episode, which is, poker and gambling are big topics in movies and shows. But Nate, honestly, there are not that many good poker movies.
No, there are a lot of bad. Yeah, there are a lot of bad poker movies.
There are a lot of really bad poker movies out there. So
we're going to talk about some of the tropes and cliches that annoy Maria and I as actual poker players. But tell us more about this very exciting. First of all, does it have a title? Can you share that? Or is that
No, this does not have a title. I am working on the most exciting untitled project.
Okay.
It is called Untitled.
That could be a title.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the show about, Maria? It's a gambling adjacent piece of programming.
It is. So we're going to be, when we start talking about actually good poker movies, the names that are going to come up are Brian Koppelman and David Levine, who were the creators of Rounders, which, as we will tell you, is probably the best poker movie that has been made. And the two of them have teamed up with Martin Scorsese to make a TV. He's just a guy. Yeah.
Just a guy.
He's new. He's kind of young, newcomer to the, to the world of screen. It's okay that you haven't heard of him. He might as well be untitled. So they are teaming up to do a TV show about Vegas and about the world of casinos and gambling and, all of those fun high stakes things. And I'm one of the writers on the show, and we've been working on it since September, I guess, is when the writers' room started. But yes, I've been very coy about it because, it's something that we really didn't want to talk about until the show was picked up. Nate, I don't know how much you know about the inner workings of Hollywood, but
Nothing.
Even when
even if we have such
no-name people as Exactly. Even if you have people whose name Martin score what? Yeah. Even if you have Scorsese and Koppelman and Levine and all of these heavy hitters who have a lot of, not just sway, but proof that they can do things that people want to watch, right? Which is what Hollywood wants, which is what Netflix want. They want people who can bring eyeballs. And you have this team who definitely has a really good track record in doing this. These are people who can really make sure that viewers come, and they're known for making good television, good films. And yet, right, even still, that's not a guarantee that something's going to be made these days. It's a really, really tough market. So we were just waiting until, the green light, the official announcements, the go-aheads, and that's where we are right now. But it's something that's really exciting. It is such a rich world. As you know, I spend at least half my year in Vegas and have been doing that for a number of years now. And I'm really excited to kind of have content that actually shows Vegas the way it is and that understands, what this world actually entails, because I feel like so much out there is written and told by people who have no fucking clue, to be perfectly honest, right? They're not of Vegas. They're not of the gambling world. They don't understand the dynamics here, and it shows. So I'm really excited. I think we have a great team in place of people who actually know what they're talking about. I have no idea how the show's going to come out, but I'm proud and happy.
What's it like actually in the writer's room? Are you actually in a room?
Oh, we're actually in a room. Yes, we actually have.
Where you have to fucking write in front of other people?
No, you don't write in front of other people. The way a writer's room works is you sit in a room with a bunch of people, and you brainstorm and you kind of you throw ideas back and forth and you develop things. You try to figure out, what's the shape of an episode going to look like. There are lots of whiteboards around and, you write on those. But it's more of you don't start saying scene 1, Nate Silver says, Maria, what are we talking today about today on Risky Business? Maria, Nate, are we going to do this again? Nate, what are you talking about, Maria? Yeah, no, that's not how a writer's room works. It is much more of a kind of back and forth, collaborative, like let's get ideas going off each other.
Who actually writes the actual script, though? Someone's like, I'm just going to take all your input into account and write the show.
It depends. It depends on the show. It depends on how things are set up. So far, I actually don't know if I'm allowed to how much I'm allowed to say, but I believe I think that this is actually pretty public for this show so far. Brian and David, will be taking the lead on writing all of the episodes because they're both really excited about this show.
So can they just like passively aggressively say, "Oh, I appreciate that feedback," and then ignore it?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. But they wouldn't. They wouldn't do that. If they don't like
No,
something,
I'm very
they would
excited
tell
about
me
this project,
they
Maria.
would tell you that they don't like it. Yeah.
So what's the timeline for like when this would air?
Ha, 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 ha.
Okay.
That's not me
I don't
being
know anything
coy.
about this.
That's Hollywood.
Okay.
No, it's very early in the process. And so it's unclear. I mean, and I'm not Brian or David, so I am not kind of in the driver's seat of any of those decisions. So I just know what I'm told, and I have no idea when this is going to be on air. But yes, this is really fun. It's been a great experience. I love the team, and I've loved working with them. And I'm excited for it to be on everyone's TV screens or computer screens or phone screens or however you consume your content. And on that note, let's talk a little bit more about, poker and gambling movies more broadly. Which ones we like, which ones we don't like, the good, the bad, the ugly, because Nate, there are a lot of really bad poker movies out there.
We can have like an escalating pyramid of like sins against poker that are sometimes depicted in bad poker movies that include poker scenes that aren't about poker. Number one, some movies don't even understand the notion of like table stakes, right? They have the notion that like, okay, somebody bet $1 million. I got to call my investor, pause the hand, right? I'm going to call my investors because I have a good hand, get $1 million. That's one trope, right? Another trope is like the, royal flush versus four of a kind of thing where you're cold decked.
Nate, have you seen Casino Royale?
Yeah, this is an example, right? But yeah, a weak flush against the busted draw kind of thing, right? And the vast majority of the time, like I've never have I ever lost with quads? Probably not in all the poker hands that I've played. I'm trying to think I've sure lost with full houses, 2 quads, right? But maybe not lost with quads, let alone, straight flush over straight flush or things like that. And that's not realistic. Another big one that like I get annoyed because I'll sometimes deal amateur backyard poker games with one group of friends, right? People picking their cards up way off the table to look at them, like that's super fucking...
Oh my God. But Nate, that happens all the time.
I know. Yeah.
With bad players. So I just played in a charity event last week, great school charity, but there were tons of people who don't know how to play poker. And the first thing, or who play it, but like not that well, the first thing they do is they take their cards up and they put them in our face. I'm like, no, put that shit down, right? Like that is not how you look at your cards. But I've had that happen in tournaments as well. Like there are players who just do that. And I'm like, you have no business playing $1,000 tournament or whatever, $5,000 tournament if that's how you look at your cards, because people can see that. And I do try to warn people, not to do it, but sometimes they just won't listen and they just keep putting them up. But in these movies, oftentimes that's how everyone looks at their cards. And I think that it is very frustrating when you see that. You're like, no professional player would actually ever look at a hand that way. And yet you see all the time, let's see, what do I have here? Let's show it to the cameras.
Yeah, you're trying to conceal information, right? That's the name of the game. And like, the people who unintentionally lift their cards up too high, but like that's like bad etiquette. There's very little awareness in poker movies of like what the stack sizes are, right?
Yes.
What is the amount that you have behind you relative to the amount in the pot, which can like radically change strategy, right? If there's $100,000 in the pot and you have $1 million behind you, very different than if you have only, quote unquote, another $50,000 to bet with. In fact, early poker broadcasts, you watch like early World Series coverage or early WPT coverage, right? They often don't list the stack sizes, which makes it like, to a first approximation, approximately useless to a professional poker player, because you don't have, it's like watching a mess game and you don't know what the score is, right? It's a really exciting play and we're not sure which team won. So that's like another trope that needs to be killed.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times, by the way, Casino Royale is a fun movie. I like that movie. I think it's a great movie. Daniel Craig is wonderful. But one of the things that movie, like, it really bugs me is if you think about kind of the sizes of those pots and those stakes, like, no one has anything behind, right? Their buy-ins are completely illogical when it comes to the stakes of the game. I'm like, wait, if we're playing that much a hand, then you're not buying in for $1 million. You have to buy in for a lot more. Right? Like, that stack to pot ratio should not be happening at these intervals. And so people really do lose that sense of perspective because they're like, oh, $1 million sounds like a big number, right? And this sounds like a big number, but there is a lack of kind of knowledge about what the number should be. And let me then add on to that, things that can frustrate me is that movies tend to conflate tournament and cash poker, right? Like, there's no clear, they don't really understand that the two are very different games and that you can play poker where chips have no monetary value. And so it really frustrates me when you see people playing a tournament and they're announcing their bets in terms of dollars. And they're basically kind of carrying on as if it's a cash game. And I'm like, wait, no, you're in a tournament. That's not how this works, right? You're not betting $10 or you're not.
No, my mom is a victim of so I was playing in some World Poker Tour tournament a few years ago, right? And like, whatever, you start out with 60,000 chips or 100,000 chips, I think, maybe in WPT. And like, I wound up with like 450,000 chips at the end of day one. Was one of the chip leaders. It got circulated on social media. My mom was like, you made $450,000. I'm like, no, Mom, I've made $0 so far. I think I eventually cashed that tournament for $7,000 or something, right? Which is probably your modal expectation after day one, even with a big stack. And
your mom can be forgiven because a lot of times movies make it seem that way with like the dollar signs and all of that. But yes, I've had people be like, oh my God, why can't you just take it and leave at the end of the day? I'm like, because this isn't money.
Yeah.
Like, this is play money. These are play chips. And I can't know, of course. Like, believe me, if I could cash out $1 million right now, then then I'd be out of there. By the way, great poker movie that I would put in my top 3, Nate. I'm wondering if you've seen this one. Is California Split, which is a classic by Robert Altman. And it's about two friends, one of whom's a degenerate gambler, one of whom becomes a degenerate gambler by association. But there are some great poker scenes in there. And I think that also one of the things it gets right is it really depicts kind of the mentality of the gambler who is up and makes money and won't walk away, right? Who thinks that, okay, but then at the end, I mean, I'm going to spoiler this. This movie came out decades ago. If you haven't seen it, like, just watch the movie. It's a good movie. But at the end, one of them does walk away, right? He does actually make that decision after winning in this huge game with Amarillo Slim, actually, and Amarillo Slim has a part in the movie, and ends up walking away winner and then splitting the winnings and just saying, I'm done. And I think that's very cool. And that does happen as well. But it does depict that kind of mental calculus also of, is this a good spot? Is this a good game, right? Can I make more money here? When should I walk away? When did I get lucky because I just beat players who were a lot better than I was? A lot of people don't have that discipline and don't have that self-awareness. And a lot of people, as we've talked about in the past, Nate, end up having an overblown sense of their own edge and their own skill. And so it's such a good poker skill to know, okay, you know what? I'm just going to take this money and I'm going to leave. You don't see that often depicted correctly in movies.
Yeah, it's not quite a poker movie, but it is a gambling movie. The movie 21, which is based on the book Bring Down the House by Ben Mesrick, that came out kind of right when I was getting into poker. And like that, I guess the book had come out. The movie was maybe later, right? And I know Jeff Ma, one of the principals behind this, good guy, that depicted a very romantic idea of like you kind of fly into Vegas and you're literally bringing home suitcases of cash, right? And kind of staying up all night. And when I talked to Jeff for my book about his experience, the MIT Blackjack team, which is what it's about, it's like, yeah, no, right? We would kind of like, we would go, and this is before you even had nightclubs in Las Vegas, right? We weren't always going to Vegas. We're going to some fucking casino in like Dubuque, Iowa half the time, because we thought it was a sharper or less sharp, less detection of card counters, which is what they were doing, right? So like, real gambling is a grind most of the time, right? And like one thing you see too, like this is a problem with like movies in general. Like Maria, I would like for there to be like a movie or a TV show, right? Where like there are complications that unfold and then they kind of unravel themselves in a very non-dramatic way. It's like, oh, that was just a misunderstanding. That was just a misunderstanding, actually, right? Yeah, let's just make up, and nothing much happens. It's an anticlimax, all that foreshadowing. Those are just weird coincidences. Nothing actually happened. Just to keep people on their toes, just to have some like GTO bluffing frequency when you're having the more predictable, I guess, outcome. You know what I mean? But that probably won't happen. But yeah, Jeff's biggest complaint about the book, and particularly the movie. I mean, the book itself, Ben Mesrick is a author, another person I've met, friendly guy. Ben says this is kind of a popular book, and I wouldn't say inspired by a true story, but it's trying to make it a little more cinematic, and the movie goes further, right? Jeff says, look, the movie didn't depict, so he got really mad when a scene depicts him or his character on tilt. The character like loses every single hand he plays, whereas conversely, when they're doing things the right way, right, they win every single hand. They might literally not be a hand that they don't win, right? Similarly, in like Rain Man, the Dustin Hoffman character, right? He goes and they win every hand. And like in Blackjack, even if you kind of know how many cards are in the deck, you might have a 52, 53, 54% edge, which is very big for gambling, right? But you're not going to be winning.
Which is huge, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're not going to be winning every bet, right? It's very hard to depict like randomness. I mean, it's hard in real life. It's hard to say, I made a good forecast. I made a good bet. But it was a 55-45 edge, which is great. You're still going to lose that bet 45% of the time, right? The notion of a sure thing, the notion of, variance goes out the window and randomness goes out the window. It's all the kind of a morality play. And like, that's another unrealistic component of movies in general, but especially gambling adjacent movies.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think that a lot of things have to change in service of storytelling and creating a story that's both visually compelling and also has a compelling kind of storyline, and that seems plausible to people. So, the first part of what you were talking about, how like the actual trips did not look at all like that. You're not flying to Las Vegas for these glamorous weekends every time, and you're obviously like in the middle of nowhere and like not very glamorous casinos doing not very glamorous things. That's part of it. That's kind of part of the visual appeal and kind of the story. But the other part of it, the randomness, I think that is something that the human mind just completely struggles with. And poker, we've talked about this before, as I spoke about with Frank Lance, who studies games. He's a game designer. He teaches games at NYU. He loves poker because poker is a game that teaches you what true randomness looks like. And he told me that you can't do that in a game that's designed, like a computer game, because true randomness doesn't seem random to the players, right? So they actually have like random number generators that aren't random, where you have like, okay, like if this person has lost this many times, then you need to have him win now because they're going to think that the game is rigged. And so it's this disconnect where when the game isn't rigged, it feels rigged. And when it's rigged, it doesn't feel rigged, because the actual way that randomness works can feel rigged, right, to the human mind. Which is why, by the way, so many people are like, oh, poker's rigged. Like, this is rigged. That's rigged. Because they're like, how improbable is it? I'm like, no, it's not fucking rigged. Like, this is just poker. Like, this is how probability. It can be, yes. But yeah, this is how probabilities actually work. But now, like, if you can't grasp that when you yourself are playing a game, now imagine like the poor filmmaker trying to make something seem realistic and trying to make randomness and variance look real. Like, oh man, that's a thankless task, right? You can't. Like, for the sake of storytelling, you need to actually play around with it so that it seems random, even though it's not actually random, and that's not how randomness works. And so you do have this constant tension where, like, you understand what it should be like in reality, but you can't do it, right? You're making a movie, you have to keep the audience engaged. And even when you're a game designer, you can't do it, which is once again why Frank Lance likes the purity of poker. Because, the game is what it is, and you can't fuck with it by being a game designer who, decides, oh, this person has lost a flip, Nate, 10 times in a row. They've got to win it this time around. Oh man, this person has gotten their aces cracked 3 times, and they're supposed to win 75% of the time. We're gonna have to make sure that the next time that he's dealt aces, he's going to win. That ain't how it works. It would be nice if it were, but it's not. And we'll be back right after this. What's the first movie that you remember seeing that's kind of a poker movie? And I don't think it has to be like a movie where poker is the plot, because there aren't very many of those, but a movie where poker plays like a pivotal role.
I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think more broadly about like what my image of poker was like before I started playing and then before I started playing kind of seriously. But yeah, I did see Rounders, which is a movie by of course, Brian Koppelman and David Levine, who you're working with on this new show.
Yes, Brian and David are wonderful. And Rounders is the first poker movie I ever saw.
Yeah, I mean, so Brian is a real poker player. I've played
He is.
at least once against Brian. I don't think Brian would describe himself as like an expert poker player, but he loves the game, right? He talked to me about like the exhilarating sense that you get when you're kind of like doing this thing that's kind of in this liminal space, poker, right? Where you're playing late at night in an underground room somewhere, where it's literally underground or not, depends. Sometimes it's on a high rise or something, right? And having the shared experience of like taking risk. And so like in general, like his poker scenes get things, I mean, if he wanted to get them fully right, I'm sure he would, right? But they get things most of the way right. I mean, look, Rounders famously exaggerates the importance of tells. There's a tell involving an Oreo cookie, for example, right? That the John Malkovich character exhibits.
Let's play some cards.
The rule is this. You spot a man's tell, you don't say a fucking word. I finally spotted KGB's, and usually I'd have let him go on chewing those Oreos till he was dead broke. But I don't have that kind of time.
It's usually not quite.
It's a movie. It's a movie.
It's a movie, right? I kind of came of age in like the Rounders mini boom for poker, where like, geeky 20-something men. But like, this seems really cool, right? This is a way to like have this experience where as a nerd, you can kind of make good.
Yeah, I think that Rounders definitely captivated me. Now, I did not start playing poker after Rounders. I was pretty young, so I couldn't play poker when Rounders came out. But I do remember seeing it and just loving the movie. I think my favorite thing about the movie was probably Matt Damon back then, just to be perfectly honest. And I know. And, John Malkovich, like since I'm Russian, and like his Russian accent was just hilarious. Like, it was just a fun movie, but it definitely stayed with me because you can tell that Brian and David both play poker, both love the game. By the way, Brian has a cameo in the movie, which is a lot of fun at Borgata. He's at the poker table. So that's, I think that's a fun little moment in there. And ask any poker player, and I think you're going to get Rounders as one of the top ones.
So, I mean, obviously every kind of poker player's famous quote is from Rounders.
We'll play a clip for our audience.
Listen, here's the thing. If you can't spot the sucker in your first half hour at the table, then you are the sucker.
By the way, do you believe that to be true? Is that a good poker heuristic?
No, I don't think that's true. I think that but I do think that there's truth in it, like with so many sayings, right? That the moment I always caution people against overconfidence, right? And the moment that you think that you kind of have the edge over everyone, you should be very careful. And I would also say that it's not true for me because I play in tournaments, right, where your seat draw is random. Matt Damon, Rounders, is about cash games. And there, you actually, I think there's much more truth there because you have to say, like, especially if it's a cash game where, like, there's some good spots or like, or you were invited for some reason and it's a game that is hard to get into. You have to wonder, like you have to ask the question, why was I allowed to play, right? Is it because of my charming personality and my witty banter and table conversation? Maybe, but maybe they just think that you're the spot. Right? Maybe they actually think that you are someone who's good to play with. I had a really funny experience, Nate, a few years ago where someone reached out to me, a game runner from one of the high stakes games in Las Vegas that is at one of the casinos. I'm not going to mention who the runner was or what the game was. And it was like, hey, like we'd love for you to join us anytime, like when we're playing this game, like we're happy to like pay for your airfare to Vegas. And I was like, and I'm going to go ahead and say no. And it turned out that another friend of mine, who's a female poker player, got the same invitation. And we're like, like, do they just really want a girl at the table? Or what does it say about their impression of how we play poker at those higher stakes? But the moment, you get that invitation, and I asked a few people about it, they're like, it's a good game. And I was like, yeah, I'm still not going to do it. So that's kind of I think that's some of the truth in that Matt Damon quote.
Yeah, if it's a TV game, that might be one of the weird exceptions where like maybe we've got...
Yes.
Believe it or not.
This was not a TV game. This was not a TV game.
Okay, that's more, yeah. Believe it or not, relative to the poker world, we are normies. Believe it or not, right? But yeah, you should always be asking like, why have I invited to be played in this game that inevitably will be portrayed to me as very good. The other thing you have to watch for, which is not necessarily bad, but something to be aware of, right, is that if you exhibit any reluctance about how high the stakes are, assume the de facto stakes are at least 2x higher than the person inviting you to the game is projecting. I think it's a good heuristic to look at in a tournament to say, like, to look around the table and say, where am I making my money from, right? Or am I making money? If you're not making money, then in a cash game, if you're having fun, stay, right? Otherwise, leave. In a tournament, that might affect your strategy. It might actually, depends on if it's late at night. If it's late at night and you get a new table the next day, you might say, you know what, I'm just going to kind of be a little bit of a nit here. I can wait for a better table tomorrow, right? But in general, actually, it's the opposite. In general, if you're like, okay, I'm at a tough table, it's 10 in the morning, I'm playing until 10 at night, right? You actually have to take more risk and look for thinner edges because you won't find these thick, robust fish that give you big free money, basically. But I think it's kind of worth looking around and saying, where am I making my money from in this game, right? And if you're making a lot of money, you might actually pick your spots a little more carefully, like in the main event, for example. Sometimes it's not as obvious. So you make a lot of money in poker from players who are too passive and sometimes too tight, right? If somebody only folds unless they have a really good hand, and when they have a really good hand, they make huge obvious bets, right? It's not as fun as picking off a bluff or something. You make a lot of money from that player.
You do. Absolutely. But yeah, so I do think that there's definite truth to that, and kind of it's good strategy advice to always look around. And by the way, if you can't spot the sucker at the table, right? If you can't spot the spot, then you probably are the spot, and you want to avoid getting into big pots because you will get outplayed.
And we'll be right back after this break.
We've talked about a lot of things that, are bad about poker movies because most poker movies are kind of bad. Do you have any poker movies that you'd put on like your bad list where you're like, oh my God, like this is just no? Or do we just want to stick to our good list here?
I haven't seen them. I mean, we haven't. I liked Rounders. I liked
Yeah.
Molly's Game. Right. I think it does a better job than most.
Yeah, well,
movies.
Molly's Game had some really good consultants. I actually know one of the people, David Paredes, who is a poker player who consulted on some of those poker scenes. So they actually asked real players to help them out with the choreography of the poker. And I think that shows for sure. I think that those hands in Molly's Game are both dramatic, but also believable. Like it could happen.
Yeah, it doesn't. As a poker player to movie makers, right? I'm not asking for a ton, right? Like just things that are plausible-ish. You know what I mean? Or things that kind of like, and that's what I like Koppelman is that like he's doing things that are kind of like not literal, but like at least kind of in the spirit, a nod to real poker, basically.
Yep. No, I think that is the important thing. Nate, if we were making a movie about you, who'd play you? Or if you were in a poker story and you were there, who's going to play you?
I will let the audience speculate, or my partner, depending on whether
it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be someone who looks like you. Just someone, who do you think should play you?
Who do you think should play me, Maria? I don't know. I'm weirdly. I feel like the heebie-jeebies about. Who would you have played me?
I don't know. I need to think about it.
Are there good like sports betting movies? Like not really, right?
No, I don't think so. I mean, not that. Well, no. Oh, wait, no. Uncut Gems, like an absolute, like one of the most
really
brilliant movies such a good movie. Such a stressful movie, like movie at the edge of your seat. And like, holy shit, Adam Sandler was great in it. By the way, Adam Sandler could totally play you, Nate.
I would approve of that. Yeah. No, look, we should have brought that up earlier because that captures the degeneracy of this character. Is like a little bit addled, kind of, that rang true to me, right? And like, I'm not saying it's the average gambler, but like that's a really, that might be the best gambling adjacent.
No, he's not. I don't think he's the average gambler by far. Like he is at the very, very degen sick end of the spectrum. But he just like that movie, Sandler himself and just the movie captures that energy and kind of that mindset so incredibly well. By the way, if you haven't seen it, we won't spoiler it here. You should watch it, but it's such a stressful movie. Don't watch it as like a way to relax before bed. Like it's one of those movies where you're just like stressed the entire time, even when nothing particularly stressful is happening. Anyway, that movie, I think, is one of the best gambling movies I've ever seen. It's just absolutely brilliant in terms of capturing the spirit of the thing. It also made me understand parlays, Nate, and how hard it is to hit your parlay. But I actually, like, that movie explains it so well because it shows it, right? It shows, like, how it accumulates, how you have to hit different points, like, what has to happen, and how many things have to go right, which is why parlays are stupid bets, as you've told me multiple times. And I think as lots of people have told me, but you can make a ton of money.
I mean, they aren't inherently, they're just high risk, right? You're basically taking the winnings.
They're very high risk,
and
right.
automatically betting on the next game, right? And so,
yeah, exactly.
But there's a reason why they're popular. I mean,
yeah.
Some people think blackjack is boring because you basically win or lose 1x your bet. You can double down and stuff like that and split. But all right, Maria, we talked about this TV show you're working on, but if you were making a proper poker movie, what would it be about?
You'd make it about the Biggest Bluff.
Okay,
you would make my book into a poker movie.
Of course.
Duh. That's the poker movie that absolutely needs to be made. So people making movies listening to this, do it.
I mean, I think gamblers in general, I mean, first of all, you have like the degenerate gambler versus the recreational gambler versus kind of like a skilled gambler. They all kind of commingle, but like, I don't know, if we determine to make a good movie about the kind of poker gambling lifestyle, we'd hammer it up a little bit, Maria. The purists would critique some things. We could do a good job though, I believe.
We would. I think so. I think so. And in terms of, who'd play me, it depends on when the movie gets made because, I keep getting older, but fictional me does not. But someone who is already a little bit older than I am, but, is a movie star, so that doesn't really matter. But who has a similar background. And so I would love for her to play me would be Natalie Portman.
I like it.
She's also
That's a good fit.
one of the few. Yeah, yeah. We went to Harvard together. She was older. She was ahead of me. She studied psychology, just like me. She's Jewish. I'm Jewish. There are not that many Jewish leading ladies in Hollywood. I would definitely want her to be me if possible. Hey, Natalie.
There are actors who play poker. Matt Damon.
There are.
Does. Tom McGuire does. I'm not sure there are any who are regarded as being particularly. Norm Macdonald, the comedian, played poker.
Yeah, no, there are a ton. I mean, there's a lot of overlap. Leonardo DiCaprio plays poker. Matt Damon in real life loves poker. Ben Affleck, Wahlberg, like that whole crew from Boston plays poker. I don't know about Casey Affleck, but I would assume he plays as well. There are lots of star power poker players. In terms of who's actually considered good, Nate, let's not go there. We're sure that they're all excellent players, and we would love to sit at a game with them and be able to compliment them on their skill level and on how brilliantly they play.
Right. If you're at the World Series of Poker, would you rather be playing against an actor or a professional athlete?
Actor.
Yeah, me too.
Actor, immediately. I mean, I have just an immediate answer. Professional athletes are often very good poker players because they just they compete for a living and they have that sense of competition. They have that hunger to win. They have the aggressiveness. Like a lot of them make, Richard Seymour, who's an excellent poker player, like a lot of them make really good poker players because they understand it, right? And they're smart. Like athletes are, and I'm not saying actors aren't smart, but acting is you can be very smart, but you're in a different profession, right? Like, and you might say, oh, actors have better poker faces. That doesn't really matter. Most people have good poker faces. Like that's actually not that important. But the competitive spirit and like understanding aggression, knowing how to gauge that, reading your opponents. I mean, if you're imagine being a quarterback, right? You have to be reading people all the time. Like if you're a thinking athlete, like, man, you're going to be formidable at the poker table.
Yeah, game theory comes up a lot.
Absolutely.
In sports, right? For tennis, it comes up a lot, right? A starting pitcher, Greg Maddux, a great Atlanta Braves pitcher, literally would randomize his calls allegedly based on stadium lights and things like that. And he's a Las Vegas guy who I believe plays poker pretty well. Yeah. So yeah, the athlete and they're competitive, right? Yeah, actors is probably maybe like a plastic surgeon. Like a plastic surgeon, like a real estate. I guess I have some real estate people in one of my home games, so maybe I should. They're great at poker, of course. Real estate.
We'll quit while we're ahead. Yeah. We'll quit while we're ahead, Nate. If we're sitting down for a night of rounders rewatching or whatever it is, what are we going to be serving? What's your favorite movie snack?
Nice glass of Pinot Noir. Yeah, I'm not a big snacker. Do you know that, Maria?
I'm totally with you, Nate.
Eat,
let's get a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And do a poker movie night. That would be my favorite snack.
I have enough other sins where like snacking is like the one I don't have, basically.
No, I don't snack, and I actually, fellow listeners, if you ever watch a movie with me, please do not be eating. I hate like the sound of like someone eating popcorn next to me. Like, please no, it's a me thing. It's not you, it's me. But like, come on, let's watch the movie and enjoy the movie. You don't have to be snacking literally all the time. Let's have a nice dinner before or after, and then enjoy the movie. So Nate, we'll have a nice bottle of wine if we're watching the movie and then having dinner. If we've already had dinner, maybe we have some whiskey, or a nice some after dinner libations. I think that's my ideal movie night. Comfortable couch, nice alcohol, and nice screen. Let's do it. And poker, that, as you say, Nate, you don't have to be perfect, but like let's get it semi-believable so that we can get invested. And the end to my ideal movie night, it's, Natalie Portman playing me on the screen. So let's make it happen. Let us know what you think of the show. Reach out to us at riskybusiness@pushkin.fm. Risky Business is hosted by me, Maria Konnikova.
And by me, Nate Silver. The show is a co-production of Pushkin Industries and iHeartMedia. This episode was produced by Isaac Carter. Our associate producer is Sonia Gerwitt. Lydia Jean Cott and Daphne Chen are our editors, and our executive producer is Jacob Goldstein. Mixing by Sarah Bruguer.
If you like the show, please rate and review us so other people can find us too. But once again, only if you like us. We don't want those bad reviews out there. Thanks for tuning in.